This is Betsy and Thomas at the American Intelligence Media, where we have been irritating the heck out of the people in the alt media landscape. So if you will look in the description box, you're going to see a video where George Webb is calling us out on our interpretation on the SES and also the DOJ SS 500, as we call them. So without further ado, if you haven't seen that video, watch that first. And Thomas, what do you have to say to George Webb?
Well, we'll get to old Georgie Porgy in a minute. Let's first just talk about the takedown of the SES.
But really, we mean the American SS.
It is the SS. Mm-hmm. Now, it's happening. We have reports, and we don't usually listen to inside stuff, but it's pouring over us like a tsunami. The inside of every federal agency at the top, those bosses are trying to get out and retire. Well, why are they doing that? Because we just pointed out that if they can get to retirement, it's permanent. They get a permanent retirement. The top SES people, especially the Council of 500 Department of Justice lawyers, sorry, I stuttered. That may be the first time I've stuttered. The Department of Justice, oh, that's right. Does Mr. Magoo stutter? Well, that's who runs the department. Maybe that's what makes me stutter. Those 500, the Council of 500 that do the second review. Oh, by the way, we want to thank some people in just a second. That's who we're going after, and we'll hear as I analyze George Webb's response in just a second. But I threw down the gauntlet yesterday and said, anyone who wants to debate me on this issue, me personally, not the conclave, I'm leaving the conclave over there eating
cheesecake
and drinking their cappuccinos. You should have never got that cappuccino machine. Betsy, look at them. They just lie around, like video game players, just trying to bust and implode the evil of the world.
Well, it's working because...
And disperse all conspiracy theories and name the people.
Well, then let's start naming names.
Let me first off warm up. I'm not warmed up yet. I want to thank those people who tried to point out that I made a mistake. And then, as you know, I responded to you and said, no, I did make a mistake, but I did thank you because of the following. And I'm totally sincere about this. We are like an open source. We are crowdsourcing. We want you to send us your ideas, especially if they're ideas that move the agenda forward. Betsy and her team analyze all of that. Anyone with anything to move the ball forward is what we're about. But when people come up and say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, don't throw the good people in SES out with the bad people, caca. I'm going to, again, explain why that is complete nonsense. All right, so thank you, folks who said that the Senior Executive Institute doesn't exist, that it actually is part of the Office of Personnel Management, and it is a not-for-profit organization, and that it actually trains the G16, 17, and 18, which is above the general schedule of G1 through 15. They actually train in this facility, and the reason this person knew this is because they lived near it, and they watched these people come and go, and they know the story. What is that place? Yes, it is not a government agency. The government cannot promote corporate takeover of America. They use the University of Virginia and many other universities and the same MK Ultra tests which they brought forward and showed me, the very documents that they use for the testing. You can't get into the SES unless you can be manipulated. Period. You have to take the tests that say you can be manipulated.
Is that why every time I see pictures of them, they look so vanilla? I don't know how to describe it. They just look like brainwashed.
These are beta boys. You heard of beta boys?
But also the women too.
They're they're lower than beta. They're omega. They're the omega children in the class. They're the ones who get paid the most. And when we just heard George Webb say that Mad Dog Mattis should be able to pull from a pool of talent to put them into any SES position he wants in the DOD, is he out of his... Sorry, George, I don't think that's a good idea. And the reason is because those people aren't bound by the Uniform Code of Military Justice. They are the shadow government, as you proposed and promoted for the last week or so, when you put up the keystone of the Senior Executive Service, and also right along with the idea that they are the fifth column. They're the enemy within, and we've proven that. We've put out now 33,000 documents for anyone to go in and mine. We've summarized it for everyone. We've created search engines, and we know for a fact that not only is the SES internal top bosses trying to get out because we have now recommended, and George, I want to correct you, had you listened to the 5 tapes we've done on SES, the first one said the same thing you said, which is move their pay back to the general schedule, to G1 through G15, and make it merit pay, and make these people at the top, who are the senior executive service, senior executive everything, senior intelligence service, and in the DOJ, that's the D, and then there's the DI, DOD, which you point out, the director of intelligence for the department. Well, guess who that is, George? And George, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to drop some crumbs here. So all you Qs listening out there, dig this. Who do you think the DOD runs? That's right, the Global Engagement Center. Who runs that? Oh, that's right, the Board of Broadcasting Governors that governs every broadcast in America, including everything you put on the internet. That's the reason it's legal for them to steal all your Facebook and all your Google. It's perfectly legal. Your entire Facebook profile, anyone can buy it for $3.50. We showed you how to go there and get it yourself just a few weeks ago. Anyone can get your profile, and we have a Zuckerberg who's an idiot. I don't think he's ever shown up a day for work. He doesn't know how to write code. He doesn't even know this is going on. So what does he say? Yes, I need someone to come in and regulate me. That's what's really going on. Who is that? That's the SES. Who makes those contracts with Facebook? That would be the NSA and CIA. The CIA has an SES contract with Facebook. Who doesn't know this? Who doesn't know these things?
Well, can we go back? Can we go back to George Webb with this Board of Broadcasting Governors?
I dropped the crumbs. I'm going to leave people to pick it up. George, if you wish to debate me, don't just put out an audio giving your version, which then tries to override what we are saying here. And it's nice that you use all kinds of names for me. Thomas Paine and the ass of the globalists is my name. And if you really want to say that I'm wrong, then you need to get your facts straight. When you say that the SES, the senior executives, should go back to the regular pay scale instead of being given the Holman Clause and getting $1, which Trump snuck into the omnibus. Why do you think Trump allowed an omnibus budget to be snuck in past his line item veto ability? Because he snuck in everything he wanted, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But one thing he for sure snuck in is the Holman Clause. He can now pay any federal employee he wants to get rid of, and this has happened in history a few times, and it's a very old clause, and it's completely legal, and no one can stop him. He simply can pay all SES members $1 under the Holman Clause. They'll all go away, the entire SS.
You mean those 500 DOJ attorneys up there? They could just be paid $1 a year?
And not receive their benefits,
well,
correct.
That sounds really good, folks. Let's push that out.
Now, George, why would you say that isn't a good idea?
Well, wait a
Why
minute.
would you say you have breakfast with these people?
There you go.
Why would you say that you just had breakfast and these are good people with G13s, 14s, 15s? Why would you say they're under pressure 4 times? Why would you say pressure, 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 and then you kind of ramble off in your very sanguine, hyper butterfly way and start talking about Pentagon powers and a guy who wants to save money on pencils and the DO and don't look at the DOJ, look at the DOD, but don't look at the DOD, look at the DIDOD, look at the Okay, if you look there, guess what you're going to see? You're going to see an agency that pays for propaganda. And it's perfectly legal. The NDAA allows, since 2013 when Obama added it, the Board of Broadcasting Governors, and now specifically the Global Engagement Center, which gets $80 million a year, which last year they used 0 of, but the year before they used $60 million to rig the election to the Global Engagement Center. That's who the Russians were. That's who bought the ads. That's who posted those ads. All the anti-Trump stuff was posted by what we would call people who want to take you down the wrong path. Let's just say that. So
I want to say something though, because what will you have to be careful of in the alternative media space? You've got to ask who are paying these guys. When you see some of them traveling here and there, packing up their camera equipment with the nice studios, who's behind it? Now, I'm not going to name names, Thomas. I'm just going to give everyone a heads up that we've already started research on some of these people, and you'll be very surprised. And so Thomas is suggesting that you connect the dots, listen to both videos, and you'll be able to figure out where that trail ends. Correct?
Yes, and anyone in the alternative media that comes across the concept of SES, whether it comes from us or anyone else that doesn't simply Google it and find out that they are the shadow government that already has taken over the government, is just not thinking clearly. I don't know what to say, but they're certainly not on the side of the Second American Revolution. They're certainly not on the side of trying to stop the coup d'etat against President Trump through Mueller, Comey, Rosenstein. Oh, let's see. Rosenstein, SES, McCabe, SES, Christopher Wray, SES, Bruce Orr, SES. Okay, these are the deep state that you call the deep state. If you want to kill the deep state, kill the shadow government by using the Holman Clause. Pay them $1 a year. This next budget goes, it has a 2-year span for the NDAA. So what I'm about to tell you is it's going to happen. And so all the people in SES at the top that are running to get their retirement so they think that they can get into that, I would recommend you do that. It is your last hope. And I also tell you the following. Dan Coates has already given his report on how to stop surveillance in America, obviously. And Trump must have accepted it. And then what did Trump do? He declared a national emergency in December. And then what did he do yesterday? He claimed the clauses of the omnibus budget, which nobody seemed to notice, that he built himself in billions and billions of dollars to do exactly what he wants. The 70 billion raise, and there's so much slush put in there, and he, as the director of the military, can take out a drop of that, which is usually wasted on you should know Lockheed Martin, who steals a Boeing, Raytheon, DynCorp. Hello?
Now the $21 trillion lady's going to get upset if you bring that up.
This time that he got, what did he say he wanted? You know, these lies that you see on Breitbart, on Drudge, which are parading as alternative news, read to the bottom of the article, which are actually written in some cases by their own writers. When you get to the bottom, it says the opposite of what the headline says and tells you the truth. So here's the truth, folks. He asked for $2.5 billion. He asked for $25 billion over 5 years. Nobody ever points that out. It's $2.5 billion for the first year. I think it even came down once he saw the reality. What did he get? 1.6. But what you don't understand, and what I guess nobody seemed to notice, not what you don't understand, what the idiots in government don't seem to understand, that he just pulled the wool over their eyes with this budget, is he's been fixing the wall since he came into power. He has used his executive authority, which is to secure the borders, and he simply pulled money. Remember the $9 billion in telephones that were sitting there for minority people to get burner phones so they could do drug deals, which Obama set aside as a slush fund for Hillary? He has that, doesn't he? And what have I told you again and again and again? People don't seem to get this. Let me finish the story. First off, he didn't build a wall in San Diego. He simply secured the border already with those funds. What did that cause? 95% decrease coming over that border. And what does Jerry Brown, the sanctuary state governor, want for San Diego, a sanctuary city? He wants Trump to build the wall there. And Trump said, I'm not building the wall there. He doesn't need to build a wall. He's using the security provisions already there. He's declared a national emergency, and he's already declared an emergency against human trafficking. That comes across the southern border. Opioids comes across the southern border. Heroin comes across the southern border. On and on. Everything he named in his December 2017 national emergency, he has now got the power to do, because he claimed emergency funds that are not usually used, but because Obama set up 13 specific executive orders, and the last order even included coronal mass ejections, which you can't even see. So there could be a coronal mass ejection, and essentially martial law could be put on America through the executive branch. They can take your food, your guns, your bank account, everything. That's what the law says. So Trump has now been told by people, reluctantly, by the globalists he fired. Do you think Gary Cohn believed that he was in charge? Yes, he did. Why? Trump let him tell him all the globalist secrets, then he fired him. And who did he put in charge? One of his best old-time friends who runs a tough, very tight ship. Then what did he do? Rex Tillerson was his enemy. He had to have him for show. Rex did nothing to clean out the State Department. Nothing. Not anything. Nothing. He was a zero. All he was for appearance. Who did he replace him with? The person who stopped the CIA activities. The CIA wars around the world have ended. Anybody notice that? No more war in Sudan? Where's the war in Libya? Where's the war that we created in Egypt? Where's the war we were conducting in Somalia? Where's the war in Syria? Where's the war in Iraq? Now we've focused on Afghanistan and Somalia, and we have burnt the poppy fields, and we have burnt the opium factories. And now, if you're paying attention, peace is being proffered in Afghanistan the first time since Russia entered there decades ago. No one has gotten peace in Korea. No one has gotten peace to talk in Afghanistan. No one has brought a ceasefire like has happened in Syria. No one has brought Turkey to show who it really is so that we can have them withdraw from NATO before they get us into World War III. No one has actually brought the actions of the Zionist Israeli government to the fore and called them out and yet still supported them against Islamic terrorism. No one has put a dent in Wahhabist, Salafists, and Hezbollah, Hamas, all the radical Islamic things, all being put into. Now, how is he doing this? He declared a national emergency, folks. He now is using, as we have said, and this has now come to evidence in reports all over the news, exactly as we said he should do. He should take his intelligence from only one department, which it seems that that's what he's doing, the Treasury Department. He's been using who? U.S. Marshals, exactly who we told him to use. We think very much alike, Mr. President and the conclave. We told him to use these to go after people economically. So when he declared war in this national emergency, he declared war also economically and for trafficking, for drugs, for opioids, for every crime there is. He has declared a national emergency against it. He can do whatever he wants. So what's happened? The U.S. Marshals have entered into, with his executive order naming, 16 or 19 people overtly and 39 people. No, we went and looked. There are over 1,000 people on his list right now who have full sanctions, and the U.S. Marshals are enforcing this through the U.S. Treasury Department, and most people don't know who they are. You printed that list, Betsy. So, as we said, as soon as we take control of the U.S. Treasury, we will take control of the debt. It will be wiped out because the Fed is fake. We will seize the central bank's gold. Better than that, they're shifting it around to cover all their arrears right now and putting it back where it's supposed to be. They're selling 1/3 of their stock. That's the reason the stock market is going up and down. The entire assets, 1/3 of the assets of the central banks are being dumped onto the stock market so that they can make money and get out. Get all the money you want because we're going to take it from you.
That's right.
We are going to seize it.
Yes, we are.
We are going to audit it. We are going to take back what is ours, and we are going to
right.
put the criminals in jail for the Fed.
Including the bankers.
That's 100-year attempted takeover.
Yes.
And at this point they have. Do you realize that all of the taxes collected in America in a year does not pay the percentage debt we owe for the money that we supposedly borrow from the Fed? Complete nonsense. Trump can wipe that out with the blink of an eye. He's building the wall. You people who think Trump is an idiot, you are so wrong. You know how many hundreds of miles have been secured at the border now without building a wall? I can't tell you because I don't want to draw too much attention to it, but I will tell you this. 75% of the illegal immigrants have ended, and 95% in the one place he secured it the most, in San Diego.
Well, if you build a wall in the other places and you just keep building and building, it kind of squeezes the flow down to one area that can be controlled.
Completely. And he has now all kinds of ways to get those funds because of the national emergency, which nobody seems to be addressing. And the NDAA was approved for 2 years. He can do this now for 2 years. That's unprecedented. So his plan is astounding. The only place you hear of it is here. And that's because we are willing to tell you part of it, but we're not willing to tell you the rest because we don't want to disrupt it. But we will report, as we have always said, nothing from a whistleblower, nothing from the inside, open source, everything. Simple logic, folks. You could do this yourself. People are doing it all over. And for those alternative news sites, all I have to say is no one picked up the gauntlet. It looks like now everyone's running with it. Let's destroy the SDS by asking Trump to enact the Holman Act. $1 a year, get the lawyer stench out of the swamp.
I was very impressed, Thomas, when I went to George Webb's video on this subject, which is in the link. The link is in the description box. The comments were amazing. People have educated themselves on this issue. They're holding their own. They're giving proper citations. Boy, this truth community is just rocking, Thomas.
I only read one that you showed me, and that was Thomas Paine is being fed information from a mole in Las Vegas.
That's right. Well, I wanted you to read the legitimate ones.
No, the guys in the conclave do look like moles, so you got part of that right.
Okay,
they don't gamble. None of them go to Las Vegas. We are not located in Las Vegas. We are actually I can't tell you how many hundreds of people involved, but we're all over the world. And if we told you who all is working with us, you would say we're lying. Also, I want to point out that we threw the gauntlet down so that you, the listener, could stop going to limited hangouts. If an alternative news station does not pick this up as the biggest news since what?
Whatever last fight,
Watergate?
No, whatever the last false flag shootings were.
Well, this is bigger than that. This is the end of the attempted overthrow of the Republic and the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights.
This is the Second American Revolution, and these are our enemies, and we must take them down. Not to say that that's all of our enemies. This is just one line of the battlefield. After we clear this out, then we will have better field of vision who needs to come down next. And mind you, in the conclave, we know where our next sites are.
Now, I like to drop breadcrumbs now and then because of the Q phenomena. And so I'm going to drop a couple breadcrumbs for you, for those of you who are really smart. And you'll probably pull out the exact documents, but they can be found very easily. I told you about these. Someone pulled them out, sent them to us. Thank you very much. Yes, but we already knew that. These agencies that train the SES use the same training course, the same films that have the same subliminal. This is basically an indoctrination. If you watch these films, you become a globalist. You become an anti-American. You become greedy for your own self's sake. That's the reason that they keep getting more money every year, though their salaries, SES salaries, are higher than anybody else's. And they give themselves the best retirement fund ever seen in history. They give them the best payroll benefits. They get awards. Those awards are money. So anybody who wants to tell you that an SES, I don't care, and I want to repeat this because this is going to be the argument I'm hoping someone has with me, to say, but wait, you can come up through the ranks to become SES through merit, through coming through that agency. Incorrect. You become a G16, 17, or 18 through the Office of Personnel Management, through the training that someone brought to our attention and actually named the site that it's trained at for the Federal Executive Institute. Same MK Ultra, CIA, corporate brainwashing. Everyone who sees these films, they're brainwashed. The innocent people teaching the course have no idea what they're probably even doing. It doesn't matter. They pay $8,000. Somebody said that taxpayers don't pay for that. That is incorrect. When you're an SES member, they pay for your training, whether it's in any of these institutes. You get, and then the person said, well, they get grants and total 100% grants. And now they also pointed out these are not-for-profit institutes. They have to be to hide their corporate espionage.
Wait a minute. So what you're saying is the taxpayer is paying for these institutes to provide training that brainwashes these people to then turn around and use their office and position against we the people.
Correct. And for greed, and to be part of this union. And they have a union And their union it looks paramilitary when you are looking at it. And many of them are military. Remember, there are many SES members in the military. But and here's the argument, they're going to say, oh no, there's many ways to become SES. Yeah, until Obama came along, got rid of all of those people who actually came up through the ranks and became, through the Office of Personnel Management, senior executives. Make sure you know who you're talking to. You don't know what you're talking about. I would like to name names here because these arguments are nonsense. So when you hear somebody argue this, please.
What names do you want to name?
I'm not going to name them.
But what are you talking about?
A
SES
dozen
names?
people who are arguing this online right now are wrong.
Okay.
Because they haven't done their homework.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't we just throw it down right here and say that from this point
we're not
on,
saying that.
We'll call it out.
No, we are saying to the listeners, if you're listening to them, you may be wasting time because we actually now know who pays them. And if they watch these films, they're going to think these are nice people. So if they've ever been indoctrinated, in other words, if they've ever worked at a high executive level in the government, one way or the other, whether they came up through the regular civil service merit system that went to the training called the Federal Executive Institute, which is a not-for-profit corporate imperialistic organization. It is not part of the United States government. It is an attack. It's like Serco. These are foreign agents. That's one route. Yeah, there's a route to get through hard work. But the second you take the oath, when you enter any of these higher senior executive services, you take an oath.
Like a Jesuit?
An oath to defend the service.
Well, that's what the Jesuits do.
Yeah. Well, someone pointed out that this is just like the SS. It's like the Jesuits. Yes, it is.
It's a secret society, which John F. Kennedy warned us about.
The head of the Society of Jesuits is called the Jesuit, the Superior General. The head of the Attorney Generals, the cadre of the warlord lawyers is called General. We are going after the DOJ because that's where all of this is then legally protected. So we are going a legal way. George Webb, we cannot change all their salaries back because it is legal for the SES to exist. They are a legal fifth column inside of our every single, and by the way, it's 75 agencies.
Well, it may be legal, but it's not right and it's not constitutional.
That's my point.
It
And
needs
Betsy,
to be
you nailed
challenged.
it. Anybody who reads what we have said about this and looks at the statistics, the data, does a search, proves it to themselves that it's real, that believes that there is one speck of ethicalism, one speck of honesty or morality in this is deluded. Sorry.
Well,
And you need to look closely at who these people are.
It makes you think. Remember when the Department of State was caught with all these pedophile films and everything? And so you think maybe all this is tied up, that they're all the same kind of people?
There are over 400 people who were caught through a CIA sting who had downloaded Tor and gone into the dark net to get child porn and paid for it with their credit cards. Hillary Clinton covered this up. We've gone over this. This is a fact. There were some hundreds in the Pentagon. There were some hundreds in the FBI, in almost every agency. When the CIA set this up, remember the dark web was set up by the CIA. It was set up to entrap people, to get people thinking that that's where you go when you're a criminal, and then they monitor it. Remember, the CIA has used the NSA to monitor everything on the internet from the second it was created. It was created as a military, as a communication device for people at universities and in the military who were creating weapons, mostly for DARPA at that point. It was weaponized against us, and then it became commercial, and now we've turned it on them because they can't turn it off because of the commercial aspect. It would stop. It would be a national security issue.
Which would affect their bank accounts, so they're not going to do that.
So now they're going to try to stop all free speech on the internet. They can filter any word they want. Okay, you know how you do a search on your computer, a search and find? Uh-huh. If they wanted to, and this is no exaggeration, look at Vault 7. And this is what the Global Engagement Center is for. And that's why it's such a lie. This is what the U.S. Digital Service is about. You can go into what Nellie Orr was using to try to get dirt on Trump, especially from Russia. You can go on and put in any word you want, if they wanted to, and eliminate it. So if they wanted to say, show me every single account that uses the word Hezbollah in it. That's one search. Guess what? You push another button, every one of those accounts is extinguished. Remember, the U.S. government owns 47% of all the lines upon which the internet is sent. This is a government utility that is being used for military purposes.
It weaponized against the very citizens that support these entities with our tax money.
And how do you think there was a pervasive plan for the takeover of the American information throughout public, private, corporate, military, all of it? It's all been taken over, folks. And it's Michael Alperovitch who has all the crypto keys. Just look that up on our site. His son is Dmitry Alperovitch, the one who actually was the hacker of the DNC. How did this happen? Because the SES members all follow orders. And according to President Obama, when he wrote an executive order in 2015 and renewed the whole thing, kicked out a bunch of them, he actually moved them all on, retired them, because when you retire them, they go into permanent retirement. So imagine, these people start off at a salary sometimes. The base salary with benefits is like the salary of the vice president, $280,000 a year, and then it goes up from there. They get that for life, no matter how many years they were SES. But they work at will. So they scare all the civil servants to think that they don't want to be in the SES. But those people all are in a union, and they are told, they do what they're told. Obama had 8,000 of them under his thumb. He appointed them. They rule every agency in the federal government. Even some go out to the states, some go out into the cities, and this must be stopped. So give them $1 and make all the people who have ever been indoctrinated by the SES very, very sad, but they are all deserving of what they will get.
Thomas, Betsy's brain is very simple and straightforward. And I was listening to George Webb and I was confused because it sounds like he says that, yeah, there's some truth here to the SES stuff, but please don't look at this DOJ 500. They're good guys. So I stepped back and go, well, now why would he do that? And then I realized, oh my gosh, those 500 lawyers at the DOJ that are all these SES people, they're throwing the rank and file under the bus so they can keep their big fat salaries. I wonder how the rank and file and SES feel about that.
Yes, and also, if any alternative sites are actually, as some accuse them of being, actual government projects that are caricatures that are the tail that wag the dog of the alternative news, if that is true, then they're paid through SES, through the Board of Broadcasting Governors, and they are then governed. And this is the other thing that people are going to argue. They're going to say, and people have come on, and they were fooled like I was, when they said, here's the review board for this particular department. And it had the list of them. Sometimes it's only a list of 5 people. Other times it's a list of 100 people. Then you go to another department, and it's completely inconsistent. Here's a list of people in that department that are part of the review board. Read the first sentence, you who keep doing that. I did that too, and I was fooled. And then other investigators did it, and they were fooled. It took geniuses to read through that first sentence. It says this is one of the review boards. One of the review board. So each agency does have a review board. That's not the ultimate review board. The ultimate review board is the one we found, which is secret. You couldn't even get the names. You cannot believe the sabotage, the booby traps, the tripwires that were put in all of this government information, these documents, so no one could extract it. We had to have geniuses work. Geniuses, some of the smartest people in this area in the world, and I'm not exaggerating, and I could prove it, but I ain't going to reveal who they are. They had to write programs to debug this stuff to get it for you.
That's how.
So don't tell us that we're wrong about the 500. You think we don't know every one of those 498 names? You think we don't know the other junior review boards? So if you want to criticize us, do your homework. And if you want to debate, I'm so thrilled that anyone would want to debate this question, because it would be like debating Nazi Germany, the people across from the concentration camps, as the stench is coming over their house, telling you nothing's going on over there. This is a takeover of the United States government that is almost complete. If Trump doesn't continue his brilliant strategy, which I'm basically predicting what he's going to do, he will either do this way or a few other ways. But believe me, he is going to disarm all SES. He's probably going to send someone over to be the new boss of SES, who is going to retrain all of them and basically debrief their mind control.
And they'll have to show up at work with their $1 a year salary.
Well, I'd be happy if any of them were honest that they'd work for $1 for a year because they believed in what they were doing. That would prove me wrong.